Welcome to Big Energy. I'm your host, Kassi Underwood, here to give you a dose of that good energy and talk with people who do it best. Each week, I bring you the knowledge we need to be the forces of nature we came here to be. Welcome back to another episode of Big Energy. First of all, thank you so much for all of your DMs on Instagram and your emails. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your appreciation of this podcast. I read and respond to everything, so keep them coming because honestly, it keeps me going. On that note, I am going to be a little more transparent about some of the more in-the-moment stuff on this podcast. In today's episode, I am going to talk to you about how to be consistent because as you may have noticed, if you've been a listener of this podcast, I have not been super consistent here. I know how to be consistent. I know how to create habits, but being consistent on this podcast is not something that It's not something that I have created a habit around. This episode is going to break down exactly how to be consistent, and I'm also going to be super clear and honest with you about my life and what happens that gets in the way for me and how I'm going to get around that. Because as we know, it's really common knowledge that consistency is the key to success. It's just these little habits, these little actions that we take every day that build into, for example, a lot more money. That was how I transformed my finances really dramatically in a short time, was learning how to be consistent no matter what. It's also how I transformed my anxiety, was building these little habits every day that over time made a huge difference and allowed me to function in the world without having anxiety, or at least without having anxiety about anxiety. So what this consistency piece is about, this is a little bit like breaking into a new vibration, which I covered in an earlier episode called You Got It, Breaking into a New Vibration. But whereas breaking into a new vibration is the episode that you need when you're already being consistent, you're doing the thing that you need to do, and you're just not seeing the results yet. So for example, you're checking your finances, you're making a unique budget every month, you are putting yourself out there, you're reaching out to clients, but you're not actually seeing results. You're not actually seeing more money coming in yet, or you are writing and submitting your work, but you're not actually getting published yet, or you're meditating, but it's not working at it. In fact, sometimes in the beginning, it seems to get worse before it gets better. Breaking into a new vibration will show you exactly how the breakthrough comes. This episode is the prerequisite of that. The prerequisite of breaking into a new vibration, the prerequisite for seeing big results in your life is that you're actually being consistent. This episode is for you if you're not even doing the thing that you need to do to break into a new vibration. Because guess what? I totally get it, and it's okay, and we're going to do it together. So I know how to build a habit, and maybe you do too. I have meditated almost every day since 2007. And that looked like, in the beginning, not listening to the way that anybody else was telling me to do it. Everyone was saying, oh, Kassi, you just need to sit down for like 2 20-minute meditation sessions a day and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I am never going to sit my ass down for 2 20-minute sessions a day. Like, I can hardly just sit still to like finish an email because I'm so anxious. This is not happening. Nobody told me to do what I did that got me into meditating every day, because what I did was just sit down in the shower for 1 minute a day and focus on my breath. And then that built into a dry meditation on an actual like seat cushion for 1 minute, which built into a 5-minute actual meditation, which built into a 10-minute meditation like on a meditation cushion. And over time, I made it a real meditation practice that ultimately I ended up taking myself to the woods for 5 days alone to meditate in total silence. That started with 1 minute in the shower. That didn't start with me sitting down for 20-minute sessions like I was a fucking professional meditator. So my point is that you have to begin by doing it your way. To be consistent, you might not be able to listen to what anybody else is saying that you should do, which is my way of saying, I'm going to tell you how I become consistent, but you really only need to listen to the third tool that I give you here. I'm going to give you 3 tools, but only the third one will be the one that you have to follow. Everything else is up to you. You get to really do it your way. So don't judge yourself. Just create some pathway for you to be consistent in whatever it is that you need to be consistent with right now. So for me, I have reached a point in my business where it is like financially, it's successful. It's consistent financially at a certain level, but I don't feel like I am really pushing myself. I'm not inspired by the way that I'm doing things, and money is only vibration. So while it's financially very sustainable, I'm not expanding the way that I want to, and I know that I could do more and serve more people. So it's shifting it from how do I just be financially sustainable so this business can run, so I can support, a certain number of people who happen to hear about me, to how do I really be in the service of the universe? How do I shift from making it about, okay, I can feed my son and I can live a great life, to I'm doing this because I really want to serve as many people as possible who would benefit from what I do. That's the shift that I have needed to make. The consistency in my sharing of this podcast and also on social media will be something that brings me to that next level of putting myself out there. And so I'm currently building consistency in doing this podcast. So I'm going to be doing this podcast and publishing podcast episodes every Monday, come hell or high water. And I have given myself a 90-day goal to do this every week. You can choose whatever you want. If you're wanting to build consistency around money making, go for it. Around meditation, around your business practices, whatever it is, this will hopefully apply. The first thing is to go toward your fear, to move toward your fear. If we're not being consistent, it's because we're avoiding something. So whatever the fear is, you're going to have to welcome it in. I'll give you examples. So in the beginning of my meditating, I really was afraid of what my mind was thinking. I was like, I don't even want to know what's in there if I get quiet for a minute. The scariest place to be is in my head. And so I had to just say, bring it on, like whatever scary thoughts or images or whatever it is that's like hiding in there, I welcome you. I welcome you. And then when I was deciding to be consistent on social media years ago, I was really afraid of posting pictures of myself. So if you scroll down to the beginning of my Instagram, which please don't, but you can, you will see it's mainly pictures of other people and like my shoes. It's not any pictures of me. My Facebook picture used to be like a pinup girl. I had this idea that if you post pictures of yourself on social media, that there's a lot of narcissism there. And while that may certainly be true in some cases, what I had to do to be of service was to show people the face of the person who was going to teach them how to meditate, which is how I started out my work. I really had to force myself to post pictures of me every day. And I had to go toward, fuck it, I'm going to destroy my reputation. If everyone thinks I'm a narcissist for posting pictures of myself, so be it, because it might help one person start to meditate and transform their life the way that meditation transformed mine. And so I had to do it. I had to just go toward my fear. When I was getting consistent with my finances, I was really afraid to look at my bank account because what would the truth be? What would the truth be if I looked at everything going on in my finances? If I made those phone calls I had been avoiding? If I found out the real numbers? Oh, what if they scared the shit out of me and I felt even deeper in the hole than I had before when I was avoiding it? So I had to do it. I had to go toward what scared me. And guess what? It actually transformed my finances for the better, for the much, much better, and ultimately my life, because money is freedom, to take a look at that. Now, my fear is I'm going to spend all this time recording a podcast and it's going to suck. and then it will be a waste of time. And so I'm just going to have to go toward it. If the episode sucks and it's a waste of time, so be it. I'm going to have to go toward what scares me. So the first thing that I would recommend is to go toward what scares you if you want to be consistent. Number 2, let it be shitty. When we're being consistent with something, a lot of times, at least for me, I can get really big into perfectionism. For example, with looking at my finances, I can think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to tackle everything since 2002 here. I'll go so deep into the perfectionism and I will like create a whole elephant that I'm going to have to eat, you know? And the fact is that one thing at a time can work. Let it be shitty can also mean let the post be shitty. Let the writing be shitty. Let the podcast episode be shitty. We're not going for results here. We're just going for process. We're not going for good finances or bad finances, good writing, bad writing, good episodes or bad episodes. We're just going for episodes here, right? So not doing it perfectly, just let it be shitty. Let it be shitty. The third tool I have for how to be consistent, and this is the most important tool I can possibly share with you, is to be unstoppable. Being unstoppable simply means that you cannot be stopped. Now, I can come up with excuses for days. I'm a mom, and I'll tell you what happened this past week that had me stopped. And I'm going to show you how I'm not going to enable myself to be stopped anymore. My son got sick. He was like really sick. I needed to take him to the doctor. I needed to do follow-up calls. I needed to do a lot of loads of laundry, take out some really disgusting bags of trash. It was like, you know, really gross, really gross. I'm a single mom, so it was just me. What happened was the days went by, and by the time he would go to sleep at night, I would be so tired. I just could not bring myself to record an episode. I was just exhausted. So then we reached Monday morning. That's today. If you're listening, it's Memorial Day, and I'm recording this the same day that it's going to be published because I've made a commitment to myself that an episode gets published every Monday. He was sick starting on Thursday, and it was just like day after day. I really let myself be stopped. And I have other reasons and excuses that I could have come up with if my son wasn't here. There were lots of things. Oh, I ended up going out of town. Oh, I got really busy. You can literally always make excuses. And inevitably, when you decide to create a new habit, shit is going to happen to stop it. It's just how it works. The minute that you decide, I am going to create a new habit here, everything is going to try to get in the way because the universe is going to ask you, are you serious about this? Or are you going to let any old thing get in the way and stop you from doing what you said you would do? Certainly my son being sick was a really good excuse. Like I admit that was really freaking good. But the truth is when I got to Monday, when I got to this morning and I really assessed, was that legit? It wasn't. The truth is, I could have recorded an episode. I could have gotten a babysitter for a couple of hours to take care of him, given myself a break and some brain space, and recorded an episode. That's the truth. And I let it be an excuse. And so here's what I'm going to do to put in some bumpers for myself and for my team so that this doesn't happen again. Because my team sets aside time to put my podcast episodes out. They schedule their days according to what I say I'm going to do. And when I didn't have that ready, first I didn't have it ready on Thursday night, which I said I was going to because Wallace was sick. Maybe that's a little bit legitimate. But then Friday passed and Wallace was still sick and I still didn't have an episode out. And I told them, okay, Friday. And then I said, okay, it'll come this weekend. And then last night, at midnight, I was texting my team saying, okay, guys, like Wallace has been really sick all weekend and I just don't have this episode ready. My team had actually set aside time again and again, and I was not delivering on it. And I would love to be like, oh, well, this was a very special occasion where Wallace was sick. But this is not the only time this has happened. It's happened plenty of times when Wallace wasn't sick. And so What I'm going to do so that this doesn't happen again for myself is I am not going to enable myself to be someone who's not consistent. We all know what an enabler is. So if somebody's an addict, right? Enabler is somebody who makes it really easy for them to continue with their addiction, whatever it is, okay? And I'm not saying that not fulfilling on my consistency is an addiction, but I am saying that I don't want to enable myself. I don't want to be my own enabler for this bad habit in my life. So what I'm going to do is pay my team for that time that they set aside. Because if they keep being understanding of me, and which is so sweet, I have the best fucking team. They're amazing. But if they keep being understanding of me, I'm going to be enabled to continue with this behavior. So I'm going to pay them for the time they set aside and that they didn't use because I didn't take care of my own shit. Totally worth the amount of money that I'm going to pay them for the time they set aside for me to always be consistent in the future. Also, it would have cost me a lot less to get a babysitter for a few hours so I could get this podcast out than to pay my team for this time. So it's another really good lesson for myself. I'm going to really teach myself this lesson. When you get serious about being consistent, you're going to go to any lengths to make it possible for yourself. You're going to do anything that you can to discipline yourself into doing it. And so happy Memorial Day. We are going to get this podcast episode out. Being unstoppable means that you can't be stopped. So don't enable yourself and really set yourself up so that you can't be stopped. The next thing is that I have to make things really easy for myself. So when I started my meditation process, it couldn't be like this very elaborate process that I see people doing. I just had to have the most bare bones 1-minute meditation practice on earth. And that is how I knew I'd be able to do it in any hotel room, no matter where I was at any time, wherever I was waking up in the world, so that I would continue to do it. If I was visiting my parents, 1-minute practice, no problem. I don't need a meditation cushion, 5 affirmation cards, some kind of mantra, incense, and 40 minutes out of my day. I need 1 minute and my ass on a pillow or in the shower. It doesn't matter where I am. I've got this. So the same thing was true with my finances. I created a base spending sheet where I could really look at my spending. I do not believe in any sort of limitation around finances. I don't operate well in that. All I do is violate my own rules if I try to create a budget. What I do is I create a spending sheet, and it's a basic one that I know I can return to and just kind of add on to make it unique every month. But I've already got the dates that the bills come out. I've got what I'm spending on. I've got approximations on the side. Like I've got myself set up for success. With Instagram, you can always set yourself up by using Planoly or something like that, where you can always be putting pictures in that you're taking along the way. Whatever you need to do to make it super, super simple. Even right now, recording this podcast, I could do it on Zoom if I wanted to. I happen to have a little tiny mic that I'm using right now. And yeah, I also have my sexy Shure mic that I can use when I'm at home. But I'm going to be traveling over the next couple of days, and I'd like to record a podcast while I'm gone. I'm just going to do it either on Zoom or with my little tiny mic. Always keeping it so easy for yourself. Having systems so that you can be unstoppable. And then making a decision to not be stopped. Once again, the 3 tools that you have for being consistent are first the internal tools, dealing with the inner resistance. Number 1, going toward what scares you rather than avoiding what scares you, which is what we're doing when we're not being consistent, is going toward what scares us. Just saying, bring it on. I can handle it. Whatever. This is the Matrix. We're just going to go for it. Who cares? Fear is nothing. Fear cannot hurt me. There's nothing that can hurt me in this world. So starting there, that's number 1. Number 2, letting it be shitty. So not going for perfection, going for process. We're just building process. We're not building perfection right here. Finally, be unstoppable. I hope that this has helped you be consistent. Go ahead and put it into practice. Let me know on Instagram, or you can email office@kassiunderwood.com to let me know how it's going for you, what you're being consistent with in your life. And also, if you would like some more support with this, I have an incredible group called the Maverick Woman. This group is going to support you in that and in all of your life and business goals, so you can really live a life beyond your wildest dreams, overcome your fear, and make more money. I love you all, and I will see you next week. That was another episode of Big Energy with me, your host, Kassi Underwood. Were you into it? Go ahead and click the subscribe button and leave a review. You can also find me online at kassiunderwood.com. See you next time.